Jules, take it away, my darling.
Okay, thank you very much, Catherine. Oh, hello everybody, and good morning or good afternoon or good evening, wherever you happen to be in the world. It's lovely that you've joined us. So I just want to say that today's session is going to be super low key, and it's going to be about you, our wonderful nature journaling community. Because we don't get very many chances really to connect with each other. So I think that these journal together sessions are just a brilliant opportunity for us to meet up with other like-minded souls and share some of our love of nature journaling. So we're going to be doing that today. Hopefully some of you will be happy to share. And as I've said, it's going to be very low key. So I'm going to start off just by talking a little bit about growth, because there's so many ways in which growth impacts on our lives. I mean, growth is a word that we hear every day, don't we? And not even in a nature capacity. We have the growth of the economy, the growth of this, the growth of that. We sort of kind of like throw this word around. But of course, what we're interested in is growth and development of our amazing natural world. And just as everything grows and develops in nature, we do too. And of course, we're part of nature. This is a really, really interesting part of the cycle, I think, because it's something that we kind of bandy around this word, but actually, what is growth? What do we mean by growth? What are we thinking about? And this is something that I've been thinking about quite deeply for the last year or so, because some of you who know me will know that I've moved my home in the last 14 months, and I moved from a very busy city, people, traffic. I had to go and search out my green space and my nature journaling spots, and then I find myself effectively in a forest. I now live in a beautiful forested area in the southwest of the UK. Outside of my back gate, I open that and I step into the trees. As I talk to you now, the squirrels on the bird table, and I'm just surrounded by trees and peace and quiet. And it's interesting because it was kind of like this massive overwhelm, because I've always, looked for nature, gone out in nature, and suddenly I'm like in the middle of nature, and everything, it's like, wow, what do I journal about? What do I do? And so for the past year, I found that what I'm doing is I've actually changed. I feel that I've grown because I've stopped worrying about having to make a nature journal page and go out, and I've been out connecting with nature and growing and developing my relationship with this wonderful new area around me, which I feel very fortunate to be in. And that kind of really made me think about growth. It's made me grow, and it's made me change and develop in how I feel like my relationship with nature is working. And I've still been journaling, but I haven't been sort of sharing it online because, again, I've not felt that I needed to do that. Hopefully I'll stop to do that again now, but it's just an interesting thing. And living in the middle of this beautiful forest, I'm surrounded by growth. I see the trees growing, wildflowers coming up from the forest floor, which is just amazing. And also the incredible growth of the ferns. I think that's the thing that's hit me most. So I thought, right, that's what I'm going to journal about today. I'm going to journal about ferns because they are incredible things. They're something that I haven't experienced a lot before where I've lived. And they grow in such an amazing way. So I had that all set up, what I was going to do. And I thought, well, that's great and that's nice. I want to do that. But actually, I really want everybody to think today about growth. And what I'm hoping that we'll do is we'll have a little chat. We're going to actually do some journaling. And then we're going to come back and have a talk about growth. So it got me thinking. And I have outside a pot of calendula seedlings, which were growing so beautifully. They were just growing really, really well. I'm just going to try and see. And you have to just use my camera. I'm having problems with my camera. I may blank out. I'll come back again. I'm just going to go and see if I can get my camera back. It's really sensitive, and basically every time I move it, it blanks out. So I had this beautiful pot of calendula seedlings. Oh, they were fantastic. They were growing so well. They grew 2 inches in a week. So I was doing some weeding in front of my garden. I put cardboard down to suppress the weeds. Great, it's worked really well, but unfortunately has become this sort of mega home for slugs and snails. So of course I took the cardboard up, job well done, and then had to carefully tap the snails and rehome. I don't know how many. I can't tell you how many snails slugs I actually moved. So my kindness, of course, was repaid, because then I had my happy pot at the top. You can see with my seedlings growing. And then yesterday, my really sad pot, really sort of, it looks like a mess, just some little cartoons here, but here is my seedlings. So sad, all gone. But I had very happy snails, so my snails have grown. But it made me think about growth is wonderful, development is wonderful, and sometimes it kind of doesn't work like that, does it? Something comes along and stops or curtails that growth. Now, if that was happening in nature, I wouldn't be able to do anything about it. Here, I have a choice. I can move my pots, put them somewhere else, make some kind of change. And then I thought, that's interesting. I never thought about this before. Should I? Should I have done that? Should I have just let the snails eat the seedlings and also the zinnias and the sunflowers that I was growing for these? I don't know. But it's quite an interesting thought, isn't it? It's not always kind of straightforward. So what I'm hoping we'll do today is, while we are journaling together, is to kind of think a little bit more about growth. What are our perceptions about it? Maybe, I hope you've all got something with you that you can journal today. Sadly, I can't be outside, and maybe some of you can. That would be wonderful. But maybe there's a particular reason why you've chosen that subject today, and you didn't really think about it. And I wonder if we can just think about some of those issues while we're journaling. So I did, in the end, decide to go with my beautiful ferns. The reason is that 3 weeks ago, the forest floor was practically bare under the conifer trees. We have mixed deciduous and conifer woodland here. And so we get patches which are, are very dense and lush, and then we get these areas where there's nothing, I think. And 3 weeks later, the bracken and the ferns are as tall as me, and I'm not very tall, I'm 5 feet tall, but they're just everywhere. And it's just quite amazing watching the fronds unfurl from those lovely, lovely curly things, which I've discovered here we call croziers, which is the same name as the bishop's crozier or crook. I didn't know that, so I started looking at my ferns in a bit more depth. So that's why I've come up with my ferns, because to me they really symbolize growth, and I can see the movement of the growth here. So I'm going to look today more deeply at my beautiful, very delicate little fern frond and draw that. And what I'd like you to do is to journal with me yourself. I'm going to leave my camera on while I'm drawing, but I'm just going to be journaling with you today. I'd like you to do the same thing, say for about 10, 15 minutes, and we're just going to spend some time journaling together. And if you want to, some people feels the need to unmute themselves and just say something, that's wonderful. But we'll come back in about 15 minutes. And what I'd like you to do while you're journaling is really think about that process, growth and development, and nature and what it means to you. Okay, so I am going to put my camera back. Hopefully it's going to stay on. I have to figure it out here, which I apologise for. That. So I'm going to set a timer for, let's say, just 15 minutes. And we're all going to just enjoy the process of nature journaling just for that time. So I'm going to start that now. And let's go. Okay, everybody, got about another minute to go. Oh, and there we are. I can hardly believe it, but that was just 15 minutes. It seems to have gone really, really quickly. I should just sort of started what I was doing. Just a moment. So, hope you all found that relaxing. And my main concern this morning is that we all got journaling as soon as we possibly could. So I hope that you've enjoyed that and you've enjoyed journaling whatever lovely thing from nature that you have in front of you. So would anybody like to share what they have been looking at this morning? Has anyone got any thoughts?
Friends, if you want to share, yeah, Kiki, how about you unmute first?
Morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Kiki. Thank you.
Great. Yesterday I was in the first session and I drew the sprout of a mommy apple seed. And luckily for me, my husband had one that he had planted earlier. So now I have this one, which is the next, well, a little bit more than the next stage of the mommy apple seed. So this is what I drew this morning. And I think the tutor's name is Melanie I think she's also involved from California, a
Melinda?
biologist, right, Bethan? Is it
Melinda.
Melanie? But she taught us something called a modified contour drawing to like, get you started, when you're afraid of a blank page. So this morning, I did a modified contour drawing of the plant. And then I kind of embellished it. I filled it in with, I have these watercolor pencils. So I instead of just doing the contour and then going ahead, I just embellished it and added the watercolor pencils, and then I used one of those brush pens like Leandra and just, filled it in. So sometimes this is just so satisfying. If you don't have a lot of time and you feel like you just need to get your art on, sometimes I just kind of cheat and do the modified contour and then fill it in. So thank you, everybody. I don't know if you heard my donkey May, but she was greeting everybody this morning.
Oh, that's lovely. Now, she's very welcome too. That is so interesting. What you're saying, you've obviously done the class with Melinda is just amazing. But how did you? So, was there a particular reason that you chose that particular plant, Kiki, or is that
Listen, Jules, the reason why is because yesterday, because I said to my husband, oh my goodness, I need something for germination. And he's like, honey, the only thing I have is a mommy apple. So yesterday he gave me the mommy apple with a little sprout. It wasn't very sexy. There was no green. I was like, oh no. So that's the reason why, Jules, I said, well, let me go on to the next stage of the same plant. And mommy apples taste so delicious. They taste kind of like peaches, but they have the texture of apple. American apple that's crunchy and, that delicious crunch. So mommy apple is like a combination of that texture of apple, but the taste of peach. It's very interesting. I don't know if anybody else has mommy apple growing where they're from.
No, that's so. What do they look like? What does the fruit look like when it's
It's not sexy at all. It's kind of red and it's kind of like I wish I could get a fruit for you. It's kind of like a brownish, reddy, rusty color. It's not looking very palatable, but when you open it, it has this orangey, like firm flesh. It's really nice. You guys, you could look it up. I don't have
Yeah,
a
I'm gonna
fruit.
have
I
to.
don't think it's fruiting now, but it's
No,
Mammy, Mammy apple.
apple. I'll have to Google that.
Mammy apple.
I've never heard of it, but it tastes
Yeah,
delicious, obviously. So
it's delicious. It's
yeah.
delicious. We don't have any fruits to show them. They were asking me, honey. No. All right. How come May's not bring that you come out now?
Just now.
Yeah. I heard her. Yeah, she said hi. It's morning to everybody. Yes, Jules, I don't have a fruit, but it really is nice. So if you guys ever travel to the tropics, you should try Mammy, Mammy apple.
I'm sure we will
Thank
remember
you.
that, Kiki. Thank you very much
Yes.
for sharing that with us. That sounds great. I'm feeling quite hungry now. I didn't have any breakfast. Oh, so I'm just looking now, having a chance to actually look through the chat, and wow, we have just an amazing spread of people. You know, from Kiki there in Grenada, and we have who's in South Korea? Oh my goodness, Germany, Canada, France, Australia. Oh, Essex. Hello, Sue. My goodness, there is an amazing spread of all of you. That's just absolutely fantastic. I'm so intent on really kind of getting on with things that you know, I just dive in and then we can kind of see. But it's wonderful. So we've got such. It's just so great to me that we can actually, you know, all connect in this way. And already I've learned so much. I never heard of a mammy apple, nothing about them, and now I just want to go and find out all about them. So would anybody else like to share what they've been journaling this morning, or if you've got any thoughts about growth or
We have a couple
really
of raised
anything?
hands. Fiona, would you like to unmute and tell us what you've been looking at?
Sure, thank you. I put in the chat the name of the berry because I have just moved myself. I'm in the far north of Ontario, Canada. I'm a guest on a First Nations community. And so I learned a new word for this berry. I'll start showing my growth picture. And so it's a small wild strawberry plant. And the name is, as best I can pronounce it in what you might know as Ojibwe or Anishinaabe, is Odeminen, which is a heartberry. It is the kind of translation. So I started with just had some fun with the colors for growth, from green to red, and then the brown for decomposition. I looked at the leaf and really noticed the edges, how they were toothed, and then they kind of slid down smooth at the rest. Sorry, it's not very dark here. And then the flower with the tiny berries that are developing just behind the flower. So it was really fun to explore that with growth. Thank you for this time together.
Oh, thank you so much. That's absolutely beautiful. And what a wonderful name, the heartberry. I mean, that's just like, oh. And again, something I've certainly never heard of before. So wonderful. Thank you so much. Sue, would you like to unmute yourself and share with us?
Morning, Jules. Morning, everybody. Well, morning here. I'm in UK. Suffolk, Jules, not Essex.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You moved me.
Oh no, she'll never forgive me now.
So I just grabbed something off the windowsill because of its growth, and I've got a tomato plant that I've just discovered is actually 20 centimeters high. Can't show you because my phone's leaning on it. Which I've started to draw, and I've discovered there are flowers at the top. So I started at the top of the drawing, the 20 centimeters. I needed the sketchbook to go that way. Wasn't thinking. So I've just focused on these, the growth of these flowers of this tomato plant, which when I bought it was just 2-3 centimeters, and it suddenly shot up in the last couple of days. What was interesting doing this, I don't know if you can see in my drawing, but some of the leaves are just ovals and some are crinkled. And again, this is something quite bizarre about this tomato. It's just called a bush tomato. Don't know its scientific name or anything, but I found it really interesting to do and spend this time with everybody. Thanks, Jules.
Oh, thank you very much, Sue. That's lovely. I hope you'll get some delicious tomatoes from that as well. Which is lovely. Heather, Hi, would you like to share with us what you've been journaling this morning?
Sure. I'm Heather. I'm up in Massachusetts. And when I was thinking about growth, I thought about a plant that is probably familiar to lots of people, which is poison ivy. We recently moved out to the forest also, and have just been overwhelmed by the rapid growth and lush vegetation of all the poison ivy that surrounds our house. And so I started to try to embrace it, not literally, because that could have disastrous consequences, but just as a plant that's trying to survive in the world, that's extremely resilient and has all of these different adaptations for surviving our many attempts to push it back. So I just wrote about some of those thoughts, and then just started drawing some of the leaves. And I think I'm going to spend more time with it later today because we have plenty to interact with around us.
Oh, indeed. And that's really interesting because one of the things that I've been battling here, not poison ivy, but we have a weed here called ground elder, which is very pernicious and will literally, it's beautiful when it comes out, but it will literally like take over an entire border. And I feel really sad about getting rid of plants, but in this case, it was literally strangling everything that the previous owners had actually put in. So I've had to dig up the whole thing, hence my slug and snail problem. But yeah, I was looking at it as I've got a few bits just left, and it's really interesting. These plants that are so successful, that are really irritating to us, isn't it? That we call weeds because they have, meanings that we don't particularly like. But in fact, as you've said there, really so interesting, and like most things that are successful in the natural world, it often become unsuccessful as far as human beings are concerned. So
Yeah.
so well, I hope you have some with your poison ivy in a very good way. That's so interesting. Anyone else feel that they would like to share this morning? Who's got the hand? Is that Ginny? Hi, would you like to unmute yourself and share with us?
Yeah, just I thought I'd jump in then on this theme of things being successful, but we often want to, rip them out. And I think, Jules, you were saying that at the beginning, how much do you just let go and let things do their own thing? And this was actually from this day one, actually, which I did put up on the Facebook page. But because when I went to do this, the first thing I noticed when I looked down at the ground was weeds. And I thought, boy, they just emerged. This was really about the emerging theme. But then when I actually looked, this one is we're pretty sure this was is a dandelion. And this is a terrible little weed in Australia, oxalis, which just, you can't get rid of. But when I Googled them, the dandelion, it has been used for so many purposes over so, so long, whole of history, it seemed, particularly as an antioxidant and anti-inflammatory, and dandelion tea and in salads. And I thought these things that we often think of weeds, actually, if we kind of, as I think, Jules, you were saying, just let them be or find out a bit more about them, they're often are useful.
Absolutely. And I think you're right, Janine. It's like if a dandelion was a rare plant, we would all be, everybody would be extolling its virtues because it's absolutely beautiful, isn't it? And it's got those wonderful leaves, the colour, I mean, I must admit, I love them. I'm quite happy. My lawns are just full of buttercups, daisies, dandelions, anything I can, I don't worry about that. And I just love to see the wildflowers. But you're absolutely right. And it's lovely to see that this morning we're kind of like flying the flag for weeds, really. We've had quite a lot of that going on, which is good because we really need to do that. Because perhaps we need another word for weeds. Wild plants that are in the wrong place need friends too. So Yeah, I think we've got to do that in the nature journaling community. Anybody else want to share? I know you do. I know this. Come on, this. If you don't want to share what you've drawn, if you something that you would like to say about growth or about the week or anything at all, really.
Jules, I'd love to say something about weeds because I have a friend who's a gardening coach, and we met online as you do these days. I've got lots of amazing online friends, of which Jules is one, and we met up last year in person, which was quite miraculous. But my friend Kate, her name's Kate Wall, gardening coach, and she talks about weeds often, and she's very sympathetic to weeds. And she says that weeds can tell us about our soil, because we were talking before about what springs up and what is resilient in certain places. She says weeds come up in either soggy soil or soil that's high in one nutrient or another. And so by paying attention in a compassionate, gentle way to weeds, we can learn about our soil and what's in there. And then we can harness that information as gardeners, and then plant in those places things that that also enjoy those kind of conditions. So I thought that was a really interesting view on weeds. Another thing about weeds is that I often see something beautiful in nature and put it down in my nature journal, and then later on find out it's a terrible noxious weed, but it doesn't affect my affection for the plants.
No, that's really interesting, Bethan, and I'm absolutely right. I think, you know, it's too easy, really, isn't it, for people to dismiss it. I don't mean probably our community where people are much more aware, because we're all interested, because we have our connection with nature. But in general, you know, the wider world outside our bubble, where people have plastic grass and all these terrible things that, you know, just seem a problem to us. These things are really important, and you know, we take so much for granted, don't we, as well? I think. I know I certainly do, and even thinking I'm somebody that loves nature and feels connected with it, I very often realize that I've just done something or thought something because it was easier to do that. So it's really good to have someone stop and say, well, oh yeah, did you think about this? And this is it, you know, because nature is, you know, such a help to us. You know, we wouldn't be here without it, we're part of it. So that's brilliant.
Another thing about weeds that was interesting recently, I posted a nature journal page or a plant portrait of a plant that's in our environment is a very hardy weed, and it's called canna. It has these big red flowers and these kind of circular black seeds that spread everywhere, and it's just I just can't get rid of it. It's beautiful, but it's annoying. And then Karina, who is our friend from International Nature Journaling Week team, she said in Canada they gently and carefully nurture this plant, and it's very hard to grow, and they tenderly care for it, and it doesn't often grow. So it's interesting to see in the subtropics and in Canada how the same plant is treated differently and is considered a weed or something to nurture.
You know, you're right, and that puts me in mind that I was lucky enough to go to New Zealand some years ago, and we stayed with a friend of mine who's got a beautiful garden. He's a very, very keen gardener. And she said, oh, you'll just have to excuse the weeds. And I looked at her immaculate garden with all these beautiful shrubs and herbaceous perennials, and I couldn't, and I said, well, it's fantastic. But she said, oh, but they're everywhere. They keep popping up. And what she was talking about was just sort of huge swathes of these beautiful colour lilies, you know, the sort of kind of like with the trumpet. And so I said, if I could take these back to the UK at that time, you would be paying like about £10, you know, sort of $20 a stem for these, because you know, you have to go to a florist shop and you'd have to buy them. And of course, she thought again they were just a noxious weed, and I was sort of like, I can't take anything home from New Zealand, but how wonderful that would be. Yeah, it is really interesting how we view these things. And yeah, I haven't shared my ferns because they were on the camera. But something again, just thinking about that was the reason that I was also particularly drawn to using ferns this morning was that when on our New Zealand trip, we became sort of immersed in all these beautiful ferns that are everywhere and completely different landscape and geography where we were. And there is in New Zealand, they call the unfurling fern frond the koru. I hope I pronounced that correctly, which means new beginnings and growth. And I was given a pendant with a little fern frond insignia with the koru on it, which has always been very close to my heart. And I think it's just such a kind of joyful thing, isn't it, really, thinking about this emergence and then the growth and that whole story that we are following this week of the entire cycle of life that we're so privileged to be part of. So yeah, it's absolutely fascinating. Anyone else feel that they would like to share anything? It doesn't, I mean, if you just want to talk about Nature Journaling Week, or you know, something that's happening in your locality or something that you've seen, we'd love to hear it. Someone said they had interesting nature spots this week.
I'm interested if someone wants to talk about growth and development, because we've talked a lot about plants. That's the natural thing that my mind goes to, but growth and development of animals or other organisms is really interesting too. I wonder if anyone's got some stories about growth and development of other organisms in their nearby nature.
Quite swimming. I'm just looking around and
Jules, you could tell us about your fox cubs.
oh, actually saw a fox yesterday, which was in the afternoon, which was quite a nice surprise. But yeah, and we've discovered actually that we have a herd of deer at the back of us. I mean, I can't see them because our fences are so high, because we also have wild boar in the forest here. So we have to be securely fenced, because if they get into your garden, you won't have a garden left. And my next door neighbour was telling me they feed one of the foxes that comes to their back, and said, "Oh, you didn't see the deer. There was a herd of about 15 deer outside your gate." And because the fence is so high, we couldn't see them even from upstairs looking down, because the angle is wrong. And so I've been trying to work out now how I can sort of tiptoe outside, manage to sort of peek through the gate or open up without scaring off this herd of deer that apparently keep coming up. But all I've found is they're dropping so far and some hoof prints, so I'm quite disappointed. Okay. Well, it doesn't matter if nobody has anything else that they want to share. That's fine. Thank you for those of you that have. I think the most important thing out of this morning is really that, you know, we get an opportunity to think about what we're doing this week, think a little bit more deeply about nature, maybe ask ourselves some questions. We've had some really interesting thoughts this morning about what we perceive as weeds and what we don't. And I hope that'll kind of inspire you to think a little bit more deeply and to really get the most out of this week, because the thing that was important to us was that this particular week, we're not having all of the usual things that we do, because we wanted to encourage you to get outside and be in nature and do your nature journaling. So these sessions are really kind of a way to show that you are not alone. There are loads of people all over the globe who love the same things that you do and want to connect with the same things that you do. And I hope that's, you know, inspiring to some of you. But we really want to get back to the basics. The important thing is getting outside and doing what we do, you know, connecting and engaging with the natural world, using our journals, just being there, understanding the importance of nature journaling and how we do our little bit for stewardship, how we do our little bit to protect nature, and also to look after ourselves, because that's a really important part of what we do. And as we go through the week with different sessions, people will be talking about different things and presenting in different ways. But today I just kind of wanted to get you thinking about maybe how you see nature, maybe how you have grown yourself as a person through your love of nature journaling. And even this year, the International Nature Journaling Week team has grown, because we have welcomed Ivia Eaton Moore to our ranks, and we hope we'll be seeing a lot more of Ivia as the journaling week progresses. And in the coming year, we've got lots of thoughts and ideas about how we might take things forward. So I hope that you will stay with us and journal and be in nature and engage and have a wonderful week. So if that's last chance for anybody to say anything, okay, that's fine. Bethan?
Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. Jules, that was really, really relaxing when you just were there, and I had a view. I had a look at everybody just chilling and relaxing together and nature journaling together. That was really calming and nice and companionable. Like I said in the chat, just spending time together as a community. We're in so many different places. We're in so many different time zones. It's nearly my bedtime. It's early morning for some of you. And it's just a special thing to be here all together. And like Jules said, take this inspiration and head out and pay close attention to nature near us, and then share it in whatever way you want to online, because that's another special thing about Nature Journaling Week, is that we get to learn stuff about each other's nearby nature and share in that way. So thank you all for being here, and especially thank you so much, Jules, for taking us through that today.
Thank you. And I'd just like to say, yes, please, if you feel you can share, we love to see what you've done, and other people do too. I know lots of people who don't nature journal at all, but they always kind of join in during the week because they really enjoy seeing the things that you're creating, what you're talking about. And there's been some wonderful pages already on the Facebook page and on Instagram. So please keep sharing, and thank you so much for participating.
And directly on the website, for those who don't use social media, there's a journal sharing page on the Nature Journaling Week website. So that's another way to share. Thank you all. Have a beautiful evening or morning, whatever it is for you. Take care. Thank you, Jules.
Thank you so much, everybody. Happy journaling.
Take care.
Bye.